I never thought it would come to this. My name is Ella Bennett, and at 28 years old, I have spent my life living in the shadow of my older brother, Adam. Growing up in Maplewood, it was as if I was always invisible, the girl in the background while he basked in the glow of my parents' adoration. He was everything they wanted: intelligent, athletic, a local hero with a winning smile. I watched him throw touchdowns from the bleachers, feeling the sting of envy mixed tightly with the desire for even a sliver of recognition. I remember the days when my parents would sit in the living room, beaming with pride as they flipped through newspaper clippings of Adam making plays. They wouldn't even notice when I tried to share my own small accomplishments. I would take a deep breath, my heart racing, but as soon as I opened my mouth, the words would get swallowed up in their excitement over my brother's latest triumph. It was a familiar routine. Adam would always be the star, while Michelle and I were sentenced to the sidelines to watch, collecting the scraps of their affection like a couple of hungry birds. In the evenings, after we had both retreated to our shared bedroom, we would sit on the edge of our beds, our eyes cast downward. The shadows in our small room felt alive, wrapping around us like an invisible cloak of loneliness. "Why do they love him more?" Michelle would whisper, her voice barely breaking through the silence. Tears would stream down our cheeks, fueled by frustration and anger. "We deserve more than this," I would insist, my fists clenched in rage. "Why can't they see us?" The darkness would echo our pain, each whisper of anger ricocheting off the walls, unshackled where no one could touch us, where no one could deny our worth. Things began to shift when our grandfather died. The news hit me like a wave crashing against the shore, unexpected yet somehow inevitable. I remember the day he passed, the sky wept with rain and our family was swept into a whirlpool of grief. When I helped my mother sift through his belongings, a treasure lay hidden within the ordinary, a modest check for $500,000 hidden in a safe. My fingers trembled as I removed it from its hiding place, feeling like I had uncovered a rare gem. The rush of discovery felt intoxicating, exhilarating. But deep down, I sensed the nightmare that was about to unfold. The reading of the will was a storm waiting to break. Sitting in that sterile room, surrounded by the murmur of furniture and whispers of distant relatives, it was as if the air had thickened with suspense. My heart raced as the lawyer began to speak, the cold words tumbling from his mouth like icicles plunging from a rooftop. "The deceased has left a modest estate." He paused slightly, looking up from the paper, and I could almost see the gears turning in my mother's mind. The gaze she cast my way was chilling, laden with unspoken words. I could feel it, a warning that I was not welcome in this battle for what should have been my inheritance. It felt so unfair, like a thief creeping up to steal my breath. Memories flooded back of those nights spent in tears, of my mother's tender embraces with Adam while I stood shivering in the shadows. It seemed like a cruel twist of fate, my grandfather's fortune told to be divided among a family that had turned their back on me. "Ella, you do not need any of this," my mother sneered, her words slicing through the thick tension. She rolled her eyes at me as if I were no more than an annoyance. My heart clenched violently in response, the anger rising like an iron fist in my chest. I could almost hear the sound of dreams shattering, crystal shards bouncing off the floor of my soul. I looked over at Adam next. Excitement dripped from him like honey, his lips stretching into a smug grin that could have fueled my hate. "I will renovate the house and make it magnificent," he bragged in his usual self-satisfied tone. Each word twisted the knife deeper, making my stomach churn with nausea. "Why do you even care?" I shot back, the indignation bubbling forth unbidden. "You never cared about him when he was alive." My voice trembled as the tension boiled, the quiet room suddenly alive with the energy of my anger. My mother's face darkened, her eyes narrowing like a hawk watching its prey. "You have no right to this money," she chastised, her voice laced with ice. "You are just trying to ruin this for everyone. Get over yourself." The words struck me like blows, leaving bruises on my wounded spirit. The silence following her statement was deafening, a withdrawal where no one dared to speak, where the relationships unraveled before my eyes. The truth settled inside me like lead, heavy and unyielding. I felt cast aside, relegated to the shadows once more, belonging to no one, fighting for a legacy that I had been deprived of all my life. My jaw clenched as I caught the look on Adam's face, a mix of joy and condescension. The realization of betrayal hit harder than I could have ever expected, a poison slowly coursing through my veins. How could they do this to me? How could my own family treat me like I did not exist, as if all my aspirations were as laughable as my attempts to stand out against Adam's glaring spotlight? Days slipped by like water through my fingers, and I found myself drowning in my own simmering frustrations. Time became a whirlpool of thoughts and plans as I plotted against the brother who had everything handed to him. My heart burned with a compulsion I could hardly comprehend, a yearning for justice, for acknowledgement. No longer would I be the invisible child lingering in the shadows, forgotten and unvalued. The idea began to crystallize in my mind: their arrogance would be their downfall, and I would be the architect of my own redemption. I needed to wait, needed to bide my time like a coiled spring, and when the moment was right, I would strike. I spent countless nights staring at the ceiling in our shared bedroom, darkness wrapped around me like a whispering partner in crime. I could see it all so clearly. Adam out there strutting in his world of perfect admiration, while I remained the ugly duckling yearning to be seen. "This is ours too," I would tell myself, my voice a fierce vow in the dark. I felt the rage bubble within me like lava, ready to erupt. My fingers itched for action, the adrenaline of planning coursing through my body. I refused to stay a shadow any longer, my resolve hardening with each passing day. Their betrayal had dug deep, and their moment of reckoning would arrive. I just needed to wait for the perfect moment to unleash my plan, to illuminate the truth of my own worth. I could hardly believe how perfectly everything had fallen into place. It was like the universe itself had orchestrated this moment, setting the stage for the drama I had been planning for weeks. I stood outside the house, the once vibrant blue paint chipping away like the memories I clung to, each layer peeling back, unveiling the sadness beneath. The house, my grandfather's legacy, was far more than just brick and wood. It was a symbol of family, love, and togetherness. My heart clenched with a mixture of anger and determination as I reminded myself that this was more than a house to me. It was my inheritance, my connection to a past worth fighting for. Arriving at my brother's apartment to set the final pieces of my plan in motion, I was beset by a swarm of emotions. I refused to show any of it on my face. The usual sight of books scattered over his coffee table, remnants of my brother's haphazard lifestyle, brought back memories of our childhood. We had shared laughter and secrets in that house, but he seemed to have forgotten that. I pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on my breathing to steady my resolve. When my brother opened the door, his face lit up in surprise. "Ella, what are you doing here?" He stepped aside, inviting me in. "Needed to talk," I said, trying to sound casual, my heart thumping in my chest. The casual decorum of the living room felt suffocating now. A mismatched sofa sat nestled against the wall, its once bright fabric now faded like the memories of family gatherings. His confusion quickly morphed into a smile as he leaned against the kitchen counter. "I think I know what this is about. You heard about Grandma's house." I feigned nonchalance. "Yeah, I heard. So what do you think?" I searched for the right words, my mind struggling to suppress the tirade of emotions swirling inside me. "I think it's a mistake." He raised an eyebrow. "A mistake? Selling it is the best choice. Why keep a place we hardly visit anymore?" My heart raced. "Because it was our grandfather's wish, Adam. He wanted us to keep it in the family." Adam rolled his eyes dramatically. "Come on, Ella, that house is a burden. Our family can get a good price for it. It makes sense financially." I clenched my fists, feeling fresh anger bubbling over. "You know what makes sense financially? Keeping the house and honoring our grandfather's memory. Not just tossing it aside for a quick and easy profit. Emotion can't run our lives. Money talks, and it's not like you were even interested until now," he shot back, crossing his arms defensively. That stung. "You think I wanted to be excluded? I didn't even know about the sale until I overheard you two." He shrugged, dismissing my outrage as if it were nothing. "Maybe because you don't have a stake in this. It's mine and Mom's decision. You're older now, you should understand." The dismissive tone in his voice felt like an icy slap. "Understand? You're making me sound like I'm just some random relative who doesn't care about her family's legacy. I think you're making too big a deal of this. The house will get us a good chunk of change. We can move on." "Move on? Are you even listening? You're ready to sell pieces of our past for your own gain." The words nearly flew out of my mouth. I could feel the tension building between us, a kind of static that rippled through the air in that cramped kitchen. Just then my mother came in from the other room, her hands resting on her hips. "What's going on here?" "Ella is just," Adam started, but I cut him off. "I'm just trying to understand why you both think it's a good idea to sell the house out from under me. Why not include me?" "Include you?" my mother responded incredulously. "You left for college and never looked back, Ella. What do you want from us?" I gritted my teeth, feeling as if the walls were closing in around me. "It's about family. This sale is betraying everything our grandfather worked for." "Sometimes family means letting go," she replied, dismissing my concern like a fleeting thought. "Right," I replied sarcastically, feeling the temperature rise. "Let's just forget the memories and the summers we spent there. Let's just sell the soul of our family for a quick buck." "You're being dramatic," Adam said, his eyes narrowing in annoyance. Maybe I was being dramatic, but I felt justified. They were turning their backs on what truly mattered, and any signs of reason had disappeared in the wake of greed. "You call it drama, I call it loyalty. I guess that makes me the fool." I could see their expressions harden, but instead of backing down, the fuel of irritation ignited into a blazing flame deep within me. I turned on my heels, determined to hold on to the last vestiges of control. There was no way they were going to dismiss me again. As I stepped outside, fresh air rushed in, clearing some of the chaos in my mind. I replayed the conversation, the way they both seemed so eager to let go. It rattled around in my head, swirling like a tempest. They thought they'd won. Little did they know that I had my own plans, and I wasn't about to let them slip away without a fight. The sun glowed softly as I walked back to my car. The dreadful biographies of the house loomed behind me, casting long shadows that mirrored the uncertainty gnawing inside. I felt a tug in my chest, a mingling of rage and heartbreak. As I sat in my car, clutching the steering wheel with white knuckles, taking deep breaths reminded me that desperation could lead to beautiful, calculated moves. Hours after I returned home, I went down to the basement, a place I often avoided due to the creeping feelings of nostalgia. The air was musty and heavy with memories, yet it was here that I found a semblance of clarity. I rummaged through old boxes, dust particles dancing in the rays of light streaming through the single basement window. Each box opened unveiled remnants of our happy childhood. Scrapbooks filled with photographs, toys barely touched and long forgot, even a tattered baseball glowing with stories of summer nights spent in the backyard. My resolve hardened. This house was not just a property to me, it was a metaphorical fortress of memories, a representation of who we used to be. As I pulled out a weathered box labeled Grandpa's Memories, I found a journal inside, crinkled and faded. Flipping through the pages, I can almost hear his voice in my head, talking about life, family, and the importance of holding on to what you love. He had poured wisdom into each line, the kind of wisdom Adam and my mother had forgotten the moment they decided to sell the house. While reading, an idea sparked within me, a plan not based on reaction but on strategy. I had what they thought I didn't: love for our family's history. I would buy the house, revitalize it, and make it a space for us all. Just like I urged Jenna to lend me money, it was becoming clear I would not just take back what was rightfully mine, I would create a new chapter for all of us. With renewed energy, I set to work, drafting a petition addressing my mother and brother, laying out my case and attaching my vision for the future of the house. I leaned over a cluttered table, thoughts racing, piecing together how to incorporate my vision with our grandfather's legacy. Slowly, each word began to feel like the steady beat of a drum, a rhythm building towards something monumental. I would show them it had never been about getting one over on them, it was about reminding them that family meant more than money. Late that night, I printed my petition and prepared a presentation I would present to them next week. I could already see their faces, a mixture of surprise and hopefully understanding. But beneath my calm exterior, I rolled with the excitement of finally wielding the reins to what I believed was rightly mine. A legacy not just built from bricks, but from family love and dedication, which I vowed to protect with everything in my being. The coming days would be crucial. My plan would rise up to meet the storm rolling in, and I would ensure that my voice echoed loud and clear. I was ready for this challenge, ready to take back the inheritance of a family that had once meant the world to me. I took a deep breath, the cool night air filtering in as I turned to look at the old house one last time that evening. It stood there, quiet and resolute, waiting for me to make my move. The game was just beginning, and I felt a surge of excitement creep in, intertwining itself with the anticipation of the cunning schemes of an avenger ready to reclaim her place in her family's history. The moment hung in the air like a thick fog, suffocating yet electrifying, as I stood in the familiar entryway of my childhood home. The smell of fresh paint clashed with bittersweet memories, and I gulped down the wave of nostalgia that threatened to swallow me whole. Adam's smug face was pinned right in front of me, that infuriating smirk still plastered across his lips, and for an angry second I contemplated what I could do about that. "Well, do you like the new paint job I did?" he declared, a mocking light dancing in his eyes. It was as if his question was a challenge, an invitation to underestimate him. I took a deep breath, steadying my racing heart that was on the verge of breaking through my chest. This was the moment I had been scheming for, the culmination of years of feeling small and unheard, all due to the shadow that my brother cast over me. "I hope you enjoy all the renovations you did, brother, because the house and everything in it are now mine," I announced, my voice steady, cutting through the tension like a knife through butter. His eyebrows shot up, the surprise on his face morphing into incredulity, as if I had just told him I was planning to fly to the moon. "What? Are you serious?" "You can't be serious." His laughter stung sharp and cold. "Mom, are you hearing this? Ella thinks she can just waltz in here and claim what is rightfully ours." The weight of the situation bore down on my shoulders. I could feel my mother's disbelief radiating beside him like an electric current, her eyes darting from Adam to me. I could almost hear the gears in her mind turning, struggling to accept the truth of my declaration. I needed to hold the line. "It is legally mine. The paperwork is all finalized. I inherited this house, Adam. It's not up for discussion. Your renovations don't mean a thing." Adam glared at me, eyes darkening with anger. He stepped forward, a dangerous energy radiating off of him. "You think we're just going to let you take away what our father worked for? You don't know what you're messing with, Ella." His voice dropped to a low mutter, dripping with threats. The bravado he usually carried was slipping now, revealing a deep-seated fear of losing control, but he didn't intimidate me anymore. I had spent too many years silencing myself in the background, allowing his toxic attitude to rule our family. It was a cycle I had grown tired of. "It's not about what you want anymore," I replied, holding my ground, my own voice infused with a steadiness that surprised even me. "You and Mom decided to cut me out of this family, to hold me at arm's length for your own gain." My mother's eyes were wide, filled with a whirlwind of emotions, and I knew the struggle within her was a reflection of my own childhood experience. It had always been hard watching her walk the line between her two children, caught in the middle of our battles. She had turned a blind eye to every cruel joke Adam threw at me, while she glossed over my talents that were always overshadowed by his achievements. I felt pity for her, but I refused to let it distract me. "Mom," I turned to her, trying to soften the moment, "do you really think this is fair? He gets away with everything while I stood by and watched." Her eyes flickered between us as she grasped for words. "Ella," she started, her voice trembling slightly, "it's not like that, you know we care about you." "What kind of love is this?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "Kind that allows Adam to dominate every family gathering, to belittle me at every turn while you act like it never happened. What happened to family, to respect? You didn't think I'd ever get my chance to reclaim what is rightfully mine." Adam scoffed again, bitterness pouring from him. This is ridiculous. You think because you have some legal papers you can push us out of our own home. This is always going to be our family home, Ella. I won't let you turn it into a display for your ego. I felt a calm rise within me, grounding me deeper as I met his gaze. This house is no longer yours. You will have to deal with that reality, and perhaps it will sink in like a stone dropped into a pond. My changes will not come from ego, but rather a need for dignity and respect. I turned my back on Adam and walked further into the living room. The light streaming through the windows felt refreshing against my skin, a stark contrast to the darkness of the confrontation. The sunlight illuminated the edges of the room, bringing out colors I had overlooked in my youthful memories. I had always loved the way this place felt, the warmth, the laughter, the chaotic holidays, but all of that had been tainted by Adam's arrogance. Ella, my mother's voice cut through my thoughts, chasing after me like an echo. You are letting anger cloud your judgment. This is your family, you'll destroy everything. I paused but didn't turn around. Family. What does that even mean when one of its members feels like an outsider? For most of my life I was referred to as the little sister, a secondary character in your narrative. I am finished playing a part in someone else's story. This is my story now. I took a deep breath, the righteous spirit surging through me. My childhood is no longer a cage. I'm breaking free. Adam took a few steps toward me, his expression an unsettling mix of fury and fear. You will regret this, you know. Everyone knows how family is supposed to work. You could have chosen to be part of it, but you chose to act like a stranger. The crack in his bravado seeped ever so slightly. I could see it fraying at the edges, his tight grip on control unraveling with every statement I made. The satisfaction of watching him lose composure ignited a fire in my heart. No, Adam, you are the one who has always acted like a stranger in this family, treating me as if I am beneath you. And you know what? I don't need to be part of your circle anymore. I can create my own. His fists clenched at his sides, and I could see the internal struggle play out across his face. In some part of me, I regretted how far I had to go to protect myself, yet I reveled in my own newfound resolve. No longer would I shrink back or hide from the confrontation. I was claiming my power back, and it tasted like freedom. You have no idea how hard I have worked for this. How many sacrifices I have made to break out from the chains of your constant judgment. I spat, spinning back around to face him, my eyes aflame. So forgive me if I don't plan on rolling over and letting you steamroll me one more time. The silence between us felt heavy and charged, like the stillness before a storm crashes down. For a fleeting moment, I thought I saw a hint of sorrow flash through his stormy eyes. Perhaps somewhere beneath the bravado was the ghost of the brother I once knew, but that flicker vanished too quickly, replaced by a rage-fueled mask. This will affect more than just you. It will rip our family apart, he warned, his voice thick with venom. I took a final look around the living room, allowing the memories to flow through me. The family dinners filled with chatter, the birthdays bursting with laughter. Then so be it, I said, my voice louder now, resonant with conviction. It's time to show you what real ownership feels like. Turning away, I walked toward the kitchen. I needed a moment to breathe, to feel the victory coursing through me like a current. The tiles beneath my foot felt cool and stable, grounding me further while the air buzzed with unsaid words. As I leaned against the countertop, barely able to process the bittersweet sweetness of the moment, I could hear Adam and my mother still murmuring behind me. You will rue the day, Adam's muttering reached my ears, but I shrugged it off, leaning against the cool countertop, filled with a sense of purpose. This was not just about the house, it was about regaining my voice, my identity, and finally stepping into my power. That was worth every fight, every tear shed in silence. Nothing would tear this moment from my grasp. It was finally mine. All of my dreams for this place, lush, vivid, and alive, were within reach. I could feel the excitement bubbling inside me again, the thrill of transforming this house into something new, something that resonated with my energy. This was my rebirth and my revenge. No longer was I simply the little sister, I was shaping the narrative. And this was only the beginning. The thrill of victory surged within me, invigorating my spirit like a warm golden sun that pushed away the penetrating chill of defeat I had felt for years. Standing there in the doorway of the house, our house, I could see the disbelief soaking into my brother's face, each wrinkle of confusion and resentment deepening around his eyes. The crimson flush creeping up his neck was a clear sign that he could hardly wrap his mind around the situation that was unfolding. I could almost sense the heat radiating off him, a storm building, ready to break. And there was our mother, standing beside him, her mouth wobbling as she processed the betrayal that she had orchestrated alongside him. The bond that had once made me feel comfortable here felt shattered, fissures of truth cracking through the facade they had built together. They thought they had bested me, leaving me in the shadows, a mere afterthought in their grand narrative. But there I stood, unyielding and steadfast, finally reclaiming the fragments of my life and legacy that had been stripped away from me. Adam's eyes darkened with resentment, that simmering anger boiling to the surface just as he spat out, "You are going to regret this, Ella. You don't understand what you are getting into." His voice was laced with venom, but I did not cower in fear. His threats didn't faze me. In that moment I felt infinite, as though I had tapped into a power greater than any familial bond. "The only regret I have is not standing up for myself sooner," I shot back, my voice steady and resolute, savoring the rush of triumph that surged through me, cementing the newfound strength that blossomed within. I was not the frightened sister he had grown used to pushing around anymore. The house felt alive, pulsing with energy, with hope. It was more than bricks and mortar. It was our legacy, a promise from our grandfather to his family. I could hear the whispers of past laughter, the echoes of our childhood and family gatherings still lingering in the hallways. The thought of being an outsider in that narrative felt suffocating, but now it was as if a weight had been lifted. When Adam, clearly overwhelmed by his own rage, stormed off in a huff, I watched him go, feeling each step he took reverberate through my core. My mother, despite her initial shock, followed closely behind, grumbling about unfairness, her words dripping with bitter disappointment at my rebellion. I stood firm, a wall of defiance, fully aware that I had finally broken free from the chains of favoritism that had bound me for so long. With the echoes of their voices fading away, I began working on the house, pouring my heart into every renovation, remaking it into a sanctuary where I could truly belong. I could already envision the shades of color that would breathe life into the tired walls. With Jenna at my side, my loyal friend and ally, we transformed the space with love. "What do you think of this blue?" she asked one day, holding up a vibrant can of paint. The color shimmered, reminiscent of a clear summer sky. "I love it," I exclaimed, feeling excitement bubble within me. Pushing the brush against the wall felt like squeezing my spirit into the very bones of the house. Together we painted, the walls transitioning into vibrant colors that reflected who I was and who I had grown to become. Each stroke told a story, each color infused with love and tenacity. As we stepped back to admire our work, a rainbow of hues surrounding us, I felt liberated. The house was transforming, much like me. I began hanging photographs that captured moments from my life, those small yet significant victories, on the walls. I placed them next to pictures from childhood, binding together the past and the woman I was, reclaiming my identity that had been pressed down so long that I almost forgot it existed. It was invigorating, each nail hammered down signifying an emotional release, each paint stroke a declaration of independence. The scent of fresh paint hung in the air around me, a sensory reminder of new beginnings. For weeks I immersed myself in that sanctuary, lost in the rhythm of hammering nails and the sound of brushes sweeping against walls. It felt like a dance, one that pulled me into a deeper understanding of myself. The sunlight spilling through the windows caught the glint of freshly polished hardwood floors, illuminating the home and bathing it in a warm glow that wrapped around me like a hug. As I concentrated on transforming the house, I found more than just my passion, I found healing. When the open house day finally came, the energy crackling in the air nearly overwhelmed me with anticipation. As I stood in the backyard, taking a deep breath of the crisp autumn air, I could hardly believe the crowd that gathered out front. Potential buyers strolled up the walkway, whispering about how gorgeous and valuable the house had become. My heart raced as I greeted each one with a warm smile, a stark contrast to the coldness I had experienced just weeks before. I felt proud. I felt like I was honoring the legacy that had been given to me while also forging my path. But just when I thought everything had fallen perfectly into place, a shadow crossed over me. I turned and spotted Adam and my mother cornering me outside, their expressions clouded with tension. "You think you have won, but you will never escape our family," Adam hissed, the malice in his tone sending a shiver down my spine. It reminded me of our childhood, of how he used to use those very words as weapons, meant to keep me in line, meant to keep me quiet. But now I met his gaze, standing tall and unyielding. "No, Adam," I said firmly, feeling the weight of my resolve settle like armor around me. "I finally understand what it means to fight for my place in this family. It is not victory in your eyes, but it is in mine." I could almost feel the tension radiating off him, a creature coiling tightly in his skin, struggling to break free of those who have long tried to tame it. His face contorted with rage, each pulse of anger visible like a brewing tempest. Yet there I stood, unwavering. In that moment I simply smiled at the satisfying victory coursing through me. I knew with a new certainty that our relationship would never be the same. The house, once a mere property, had elevated into something much grander, an embodiment of resilience, a testament to my journey of self-worth. It was no longer just a building. It was my victory, my liberation from their oppression, my declaration that I would never let them make me feel small again. As I closed the door behind me, filled with warmth and purpose, I took a moment to let the silence wash over me, soothing the edges of my frayed emotions. The shadows cast by regret and resentment melted, revealing the clarity I had sought for so long. I could hear the whispers of childhood memories around me, but now they sang of hope and possibilities rather than fear. I realized that I had unearthed something much deeper than a house. I had uncovered the confidence within myself that I had long thought lost. I had reclaimed my legacy in a way that I had never fully grasped before, and the taste of revenge was sweeter than I ever imagined. The journey had been difficult, but standing boldly in my own home, I felt like I had emerged from the ashes, reborn and ready to write my story on my own terms in the weeks that followed. I forged ahead, hammering through the weight of my family's history and carving out my own identity within the walls of my grandfather's home. Each crack in the wall had mirrored the cracks in our family ties, lines drawn depending on money and favoritism. I could still picture the countless days spent in this same house, surrounded by whispers and cold shoulders, a heavy blanket of tension that had settled like dust over every family meeting. Now, instead of shadows lurking through the hallways, I felt sunlight spilling through the newly installed windows, their bright gleam casting flickers of hope around the cozy rooms. The renovations were complete, marking the transition from a monument of betrayal to a personal haven. Hosting an open house was about more than just attracting buyers. It was my declaration of independence, a way to show the world, especially my family, that I was no longer just the girl trapped in a family feud. The echo of laughter from visitors as they admired the freshly painted walls and updated fixtures filled my heart with warmth. They buzzed with excitement over the home's features, an expansive backyard ripe for barbecue gatherings, and a kitchen that would inspire culinary delights. I found a small corner of the living room to breathe, my heart swelling with pride over the transformations I had overseen. Here I stood, a far cry from the uncertain girl who had once felt invisible beneath the weight of my family's expectations. I could not recall ever feeling so proud, not just of the home but of the strength I had summoned in the face of betrayal. With the sales contracts in place, my investments validated, I finally grasped the tangible proof of my future. Holding that check for $600,000 felt surreal, like clasping a gold medal after years of training. The very future that had been stolen from me through family squabbles and a bitter inheritance fight lay within my hands like a lifeline. I had proved to myself that I was capable of so much more than I had been led to believe all those years. Later, I invited Jenna over for a celebratory dinner to relish in my triumph. The smells wafting from the kitchen filled the air as garlic and herbs danced together, creating a savory blend that promised comfort. I had set the dining table simply but elegantly, with plates that gleamed and candles flickering gently, casting a soft glow that softened the edges of our reality. As we sat down to eat, Jenna raised her glass filled with sparkling cider, her joy infectious. To new beginnings, I toasted, and her smile shone brighter than the candlelight reflecting on the table. The laughter that echoed through the walls reverberated with a sort of magic, reminding me of lighter times, the moments where family dinners felt like celebrations instead of battlegrounds. Each sip of cider bubbled up warmth in my chest, reminding me of the suffocating moments I had endured and left behind. Those feelings of betrayal, loneliness, and doubt slowly fell away with every clink of our glasses. I can't believe you did it. This place is amazing, she said, her eyes glancing dreamily across the transformed space. You turned it into something beautiful. Thank you, I replied, my voice layered with gratitude. It was a labor of love, and honestly, it was therapy too. I gestured around, my fingers lingering on the edges of the table, tracing the polished wood. It was like piecing together a puzzle, and now it feels whole. More than whole, she corrected, her tone playful. It feels like you too. It's a triumph, Ella. I beamed at my best friend. Her encouragement wrapped around me like a warm blanket, strengthening my resolve to step irrevocably into my new life. It's funny how something that was once a source of pain can become something so freeing. I looked around the room, taking in not just the renovations but all the laughter that filled the space. It was all slowly transforming into something I could define as my own. However, just as I started to believe that everything was finally settled, a sudden knock at the door jolted me from my revelry. The sound echoed unnervingly through the warm, vibrant space, a stark contrast against the joyful atmosphere I was trying to cultivate. I glanced at Jenna and she raised her eyebrows, a silent question reflected in her eyes that mirrored my own anxiety. Do you want me to get it? She asked, her voice uncertain. No, I'll check, I replied, though my heart raced with apprehension. There was a familiar mix of emotions coursing through me, fear, anger, and a hint of annoyance. I stood and walked towards the door, each step heavier than the last. As I pulled it open, the bright light from outside washed over me, momentarily blinding me. But as the glare faded, I could see him, standing there, Adam, a familiar mix of rage and despair splattered across his face, just like the memories that clung to my mind. Ella, he began, his voice low and threatening, invoking the shadows of history that I had desperately tried to escape. You may have won the battle, but the war is far from over. The words dripped with disdain, hanging heavy in the air like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. My heart raced as I took a steadying breath, trying to maintain the sense of control I had fought so hard to establish. What do you want, Adam? I replied, trying to push the ice in my veins aside. I glanced around, momentarily aware that Jenna was behind me, her expression cautious, ready to intervene if necessary. I want to know how you think this changes anything, he pressed, stepping closer, invading my space. You think a check makes you whole? You have no idea what you have truly lost. Lost, I echoed, anger bubbling to the surface. I'm standing here right now, reclaiming what was mine. I've bought my grandfather's house. This place is mine. His laughter came out like a brittle crack, devoid of genuine amusement. No, this is not how it works. Everything I've done for this family, it has been for the greater good, and you think the culmination of a few renovations means you can rewrite everything. I shook my head, grounding myself against the surge of memories that threatened to edge back into my mind. What greater good? Your selfishness just created an avalanche of pain for all of us. I'm done listening to your version of what is good for the family. This is my life now. Jenna's hand brushed my shoulder, a gentle reminder of my newfound strength and clarity. Ella, remember what we talked about. You're going to rise above this. Adam's eyes caught Jenna's, and I could sense animosity bubbling under the surface, a festering wound that would never heal between them. And you, he spat, turning back to me, you've no idea what you're getting into. The legacy of this family is tangled in battles you can't possibly imagine. Perhaps the legacy needs to be rewritten, I shot back, heart pounding. It's about time we break the cycle. For a moment, silence stretched between us, but it was not empty. It was charged with the kind of energy that lingers when opposing souls clash. A silent war played out in the doorway. I could almost hear my heart beating in my ears, a rhythmic anthem marking the divide between us, a line I had chosen to step over. For every action there's a reaction, Ella, he warned, leaning in as if seeking to unearth my hidden fears. I won't let this go easily. His words stung, but they also sparked a fire in my belly. Then I'll fight, and this time I'll win. He stared down at me, holding my gaze, searching for cracks in my facade. But I stood solid, a fortress tightened by the sinews of my family's past and cemented by my own resolved future. In the swirling tension, I realized the haunting legacy of our family, once filled with division and treachery, now had the potential to evolve into something new. I could see it now, a future unmarred by the misguided loyalties that had ensnared us for too long. I would forge my own path and reclaim my space in this family story, perhaps even extending a hand to heal old wounds when the time was right. But today was not that day. As I stepped back, I let the door close slightly, a visual reminder of the boundary I was now erecting within my life. You think you can intimidate me? You're wrong. I'm ready for whatever this is going to be, and I refuse to fold. His expression darkened, mischief replaced by a new intensity. I had seen the shadow of his wrath before, but this was different. He was on uncertain territory as well. I will have what is mine, as will you, he replied, the weight of his words lingering between us. Do not forget it. With that, he turned away, and I felt an abrupt sense of relief wash over me like the sun breaking through a heavy storm cloud. I closed the door slowly, taking a moment to let my breath normalize, focusing on the sound of Jenna's comforting voice behind me. I can't believe he came here, she breathed, her eyes wide with concern. I leaned against the door, allowing myself a moment of realization. It doesn't matter, really. What matters is I'm stronger than I've ever been. I will no longer be a pawn in their game. This is my home now. The legacy of familial betrayal might be long, but in that very moment I understood that the shackles of my past were being replaced with chains of empowerment. I focused on the ticking clock hanging in the kitchen, each tick marking a moment of my own reclamation. With every tick, I set forth to create my own legacy in this house, one that was no longer overshadowed by familial strife. I had emerged from the ashes of pettiness, rising toward my destiny, tasting the sweet thrill of my victory. The narrative of my life would fold into fresh pages, and I was the pen wielding my story. The sweetest revenge was, indeed, rewriting my tale, and I was finally ready to embrace my future.